Welcome back. We are just a few seconds before the noon hour when we shall have Gerhard Pfau join us. Gerhard is an IBM Distinguished Designer and Head of Design for IBM's Technology Lifecycle Services. Previously, he served as the Head Europe for Enterprise Design Thinking. Gerhard loves designing experiences for people and deeply understands technology. The latter made him become a member of the IBM Academy. Prior to his recent roles, Gerhard was design lead in IBM's Smarter Process portfolio and lead architect for human-centric business process management. He currently resides in Germany in the outskirts of Stuttgart, the automotive capital, where he loves to drive his convertible with the top down and cooks delicious meals with his family. Gerhard, that last line just gave me this beautiful mental picture of going through the countryside in Germany and then pulling up to have lunch with your family. So thank you for putting that human touch to that bio, and welcome to the University of Louisville's Taste of Technology. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you, and thank you for the warm welcome and for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. Let me start by trying to share my slides here.
Okay.
Okay.
We can see them.
You can see my screen. Okay, and let me get into screen show mode here. And here we go. All right, so I can't see you anymore now, but I just I just keep going. So yeah, as you heard already, my name is Gerhard Pfau, and I think what got mentioned was that I'm a design executive. That's, we call them at IBM Distinguished Designers. That's what you see here in the title. In my recent role, I'm head of design of technology lifecycle services, and that may not tell you too much, but basically in TLS, that's the abbreviation for it, we are supporting the entire lifecycle of our clients' hybrid IT infrastructure, from the initial deployment to continuous support and optimization until an asset or a solution gets refreshed and the cycle begins again. So that is my day job, but design thinking or enterprise design thinking and human-centered innovation has been a matter that is close, near and dear to my heart since many years, more than a decade actually. And so I'm very happy to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about this to you. Before we dive deeper into enterprise design thinking, I want to take a step back and have a look at IBM's innovation journey. And IBM's innovation journey since ever has been a journey of technology and a journey of design. So you may have heard this famous quote here by Thomas Watson Jr. He was the son of IBM's founder, and he said this famous sentence: "Good design is good business." And if you're looking at that picture of a data center in Toronto, actually, then it has a certain aesthetic that combined function and design. And actually, you see people window shopping. Think about that today, right? I mean, today, all those mainframes, power systems, cloud storage is all like hidden in the basement or in some remote data center. At that time, it was really fantastic for people to experience and to see it and to see things rotate and move and so on. Yeah, so good design is good business in this sense, creating a connection between technology and between people. And Thomas Watson Jr., as IBM CEO, he started that design movement in IBM, and he brought design luminaries on board who work for IBM. And many more, but I just picked a few here to quickly introduce to you. Like in the top left corner is Elliot Noyes. He was a modernist architect. He's built very many famous houses and a curator at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And he became the first head of design at IBM. And to the right of him, you see in a very funny poster, Ray and Charles Eames. So you may have known or heard about them because they're famous for their molded plywood chairs, the Eames chairs they have created. But for IBM, they also designed experiences like the World Exhibition and Mathematica, which all had the purpose of think about it, it's in the 60s and 70s to make the concept of information science and of computing tangible for people and to give them a sense for what this could do for them. Yeah. Continuing in the bottom left, actually, it's Paul Rand. He designed the famous IBM 8-bar logo and the Rebus, and he worked for many companies, but he did great work for us. In the bottom right corner is Richard Supper. A little later, he's designer of the IBM ThinkPad laptop computer, which at that time was my first computer or my first laptop, I should say, and also both a design icon and something that was really remarkable for people to use. Another one of those examples, now going back to Elliot Noyce at some point in time. So this is the IBM's electric typewriter. Yeah, something you may find boring right now, but it was the iPad of the 1960s. It was the iPad of the 1960s because it combined modern product design with until then not imaginable capabilities. You could use different fonts, right? You see on the lower side of the screen, you see those font balls, right? Before that, the typewriters were using these hammer mechanics, and the font was kind of like fixed, burned into those hammers, which, by the way, had another negative effect. They could jam if somebody typed too fast. So this electric became not just a piece of art and a beauty, but also like superior from what it was able to do for people. And yeah, 9 of 10 secretaries and at that time were using his electric typewriter just because it was quicker and had all these nice capabilities. So that's what matters, right? Designing is designing for people, creating products people love to buy and use. One last chart just to round it off, and that is like you've seen that this is the famous Rebus Paul Rand has created for IBM. What you will not be able to read here, it's in the lower left corner, the fine print, right? This is what Paul Rand had in mind when he designed this. He picked an I for perception, insight, and vision, and a B for industriousness, dedication, and perseverance. And he kept the M of the logo for motivation, merit, moral strength. So this is what the designer Paul Rand has seen in IBM back then, and what we see in the company right now, because these are our core values. And another core value is to be essential, right? So that is our purpose. That's the purpose of each IBM employee. And that's like from a design perspective or from a design thinking perspective, something that is also carrying our actions forward. And what makes you essential? Well, here are a few examples. A little bit more than 50 years ago, we sent a man to the moon. Actually, your company did that, and more importantly, they got them back alive to Earth safely. And you see the control tower here, or the control center in Houston. It's full of IBM folks. So there was an IBM computer on board, the Apollo capsule, and of course the data center was also run by machines that were essential to make this mission successful. So we don't have to go that far back though, right? Think about financial services today. 87% of all financial transactions, credit card transactions, are processed by an IBM system. Or when you're traveling, right? 23 of the 25 largest airlines are using IBM to offer you a reliable experience. And the same is true for 92% of the top banks worldwide and 70% of the largest retailers. So that's quite significant in my mind. But what does it take to be essential? From my perspective, it means that we innovate by combining a humble understanding of people's needs and bring that together with breakthrough technology like IBM Cloud or IBM Watson AI or security. And when we do that, we envision and build products and solutions that matter to our users. And sometimes that matter that they matter so much to them that they become essential. But wrapping this up, right? Creating user delight is not an end in itself, right? It's 2024, and customers just won't accept solutions anymore, business solutions that are harder to use than what they're used to from their private lives. Right, we all have these little pocket computers in our hand, and we are expecting that that our banking application we're using or the time management application we use at work are as seamless as all the other applications we're dealing with every day. And this is something we need to keep in mind when we are designing products, when we are designing solutions for the people whom we are serving. In our experience, there are certain organizations that are better than doing that than others, right? And I mentioned before that I served as head Europe for Enterprise Design Thinking early on, and during my at that time I was very often speaking with clients, consulting, and talking about our experiences with human-centered innovation and how organizations should be built to foster human-centered human-centered innovation. And let me just quickly summarize the main concepts as the base of what I'm going to present to you later today. So there are a couple of data points to demonstrate how human-centered businesses are outperforming their more traditional counterparts. And I'm not going through all of them, but just like to start with a few main KPIs. That Forrester has performed a study, the total economic impact of IBM's design thinking practice, and they found that the time to market was by 2 times faster than using a traditional approach. And 2 times faster to market is a huge deal, right? And it's enabled by the efficiencies design thinking is driving, by like helping people to solve the right problem, but then also to solve it right. Yeah, so this is where this 2x is coming from. And just to pick another one, like the 32% higher revenue, that's from a study by McKinsey. They're really impressive. And it shows that design thinking and the human-centered mindset and the human-centered approach helps us by guiding to create the right solutions people would actually like to use and pay for. So what do human-centered business do differently than other organizations, right? What does it take to make them so successful? Well, first of all, and you will see this also when we talk about design thinking later on, a human-centered organization puts people front and center, right? It's focusing on delivering great outcomes for humans, for people, for the people we serve. It's also usually iterative and de-risking innovation by experimenting early on in the cycle, and by that also minimizing time to value. And we can go on, like building inclusive environments, collaboration across silos, and do this all at enterprise scale. So that's what we see human-centered businesses are doing. And to do that, they need a culture that supports that. But culture is kind of like, I have this, actually interestingly, this sticky here at the window, which is saying behavior over time equals culture, but it's coming in different dimensions, right? So first of all, we need to make sure we have the right people with the right skills and the human-centered mindset to help us build what we want to build. And then we need practices. For us at IBM, it's enterprise design thinking. It's also the carbon design system. Both are public and openly available, and you can experiment with them. Then places. I mean, places, we started talking about places long before COVID hit, right? So a place can be a virtual or a physical place, but it should be a place that fosters collaboration and that puts people together on equal footing, taking hierarchy out to enable them to collaborate in a form that is productive and outcome oriented. Then projects. When we have projects and initiatives, we need to frame them so that they're around user journeys and business outcomes. Yeah. So if we set up a project like that, it helps us towards building for the people we serve. And then also we need policies and incentives that promote innovation for our users, right? Net Promoter Score is an example, right? Measure people by what, and it's maybe not the best example. There are other metrics like customer satisfaction metrics, but just like making it clear that, for example, people's compensation is coupled with the user satisfaction they're creating with the solution they're delivering to the market. So the main practice that helps us with that is enterprise design thinking. And what I want to introduce here really quickly before we dive deeper is there is a platform available. Don't go there now, right? But you can go there later by typing in ibm.com/design thinking. There you see the enterprise design thinking platform, the entire toolkit of activities, including slides to facilitate workshops by yourself. You find comprehensive courses and materials to acquire electronic certificates, badges for to become an enterprise design thinking practitioner, or to build up knowledge in design for artificial intelligence. Yeah, so the AI Team Essentials is also a recent add. So these are all like courses that are openly available. And that you can use to learn and to show your qualification. So what is it what we want you to learn, right? Or what should you be learning as a new skill for the 21st century? Yeah, let me introduce to you enterprise design thinking by IBM. So if we look at it, if I just had one slide to introduce it to you, then it would be this, right? So what is enterprise design thinking? It's not a process, it's a framework, right? So too many people think of design thinking as a linear process of a few steps. So we do research, we do understand, we make something and then we ship it and done, right? So that may have been okay in the time like 30 years ago or 20 years ago when we were all building products and the product life cycle was like, I don't know, like how many years. It's not working today anymore, right? Today, we need to have a framework that allows us to solve users' problem at the speed and scale that is required by the market today. Yeah, and enterprise design thinking by IBM allows us to do that. To do that, it comes with 3 principles: the loop and the keys. And without talking about them here on this slide, I'm going to drill deeper a little bit on them, like one by one, and I'm going to start with the principles, right? So the principles, we say the principles frame the way we see problems, right? There are 3 principles, and I'm going to introduce them all of you one by one. The first one is a focus on user outcomes. The second one is diverse empowered teams. And the third one is restless reinvention. And what do we mean by that? Well, first, a focus on user outcomes. Before you commit to using enterprise design thinking, consider what your team values. Not every organization values user experience, for example, but to make this here most successful, they better should, right? As mentioned before, our users are demanding better user experiences delivered faster. So, an IBM senior vice president, that's actually pretty high up in the hierarchy, Bridget van Kralingen used to say it in using the following words: the last best experience that anyone has anywhere becomes the minimum expectation for the experience they want everywhere. Okay, it's just slower. The last best experience that anyone has anywhere. So the last thing you experience with an application, with the service, that becomes the minimum expectation for the experience they want everywhere else, right? So you have one app you really like because it's supporting you really well, right? Then this becomes your minimum threshold for we say, okay, that's how that banking app should perform too. Yeah. And this is why when you use enterprise design thinking, your users and their experience become your North Star, right? you align around their needs and measure success on the value we bring to them. That's how we work, right? And we involve them in the work, and we come to that a little later. But the main principle, focus on user outcomes, make the users your North Star. So that was the first principle. The second one, diverse, empowered teams. This has so many dimensions. I'm trying to unpack it a little bit, right? So to move quickly, you need a team that can share an insight or an idea and then quickly reject or commit to it. They need to be able to collaborate in real time, not as a link in a chain of sequential interactions, right? And that requires a shift in mindset. It requires that you have empathy, not just with your users, but also with your team, with your other teammates. It requires trust and respect amongst the whole team. And it requires often that you put the needs of the team above your own. And now to the diversity aspect. So this has several dimensions. One dimension is we often talk about like 3-in-a-box teams, which means we put product managers who are responsible for the market success of a product or a solution, together with the designers who are chartered with making it delightful to use for a user and make it solve the right problem, together with the engineers who are building it, right? And together, like those 3 roles are a powerful combination to actually move fast and to make sure we're not like the designers are not designing in the ivory tower, the product managers are not dreaming up solutions that nobody can deliver to the market and so on, right? So that's a diverse, empowered team. Diversity can have other dimensions in the sense of like bringing in people with different needs, different backgrounds. That can be historical, that can be like potentially people with disabilities or people from other business domains like lawyers or marketeers or sellers, like whomever you need to move faster, bring them in, bring them to the table, make sure you are you have the right diverse team together to be able to move fast and to make decisions fast. Third, restless reinvention. So if you think about it, fundamentally human needs haven't changed much, yeah. But the needs, but the ways we address them, they have changed a lot, yeah. So what our attitude is when we are solving problems, we're treating everything as a prototype, even in market solutions. When you treat everything just as an iteration, you are empowered to rethink solutions to even the oldest problems, right? I mean, one of the examples I like to use is the following, right? There is the need to get from A to B, yeah? So that is a need, right? We have that need. And the solutions over time included, well, walking on your own feet, right? Or riding on a horseback, or riding in a horse-drawn carriage, or driving a car yourself, or taking a train, or be a passenger in an autonomous vehicle, and maybe something we can't even envision right now. These are all like iterations, like steps that are maybe not building on each other, but different and growing solutions for a very human problem to get from A to B. Now apply this to a solution you're building, right? You don't have to be perfect to be able to ship something to the market. It has to be good, and you put it out and you learn from that, and then you can refine and iterate and create a new iteration. Everything's a prototype, and perfect is actually the evil of good and of speedy delivery. So therefore, restless reinvention. What helps us a great deal with restless reinvention is this behavior model we call the loop, yeah, and that behavior model helps us to understand the present and envision the future in a continuous cycle of observing, reflecting, and making. And it doesn't matter where you start with observe or reflect or with make. It matters that you're going through the loop, like not just once but several times. Let's look at a little animation how this is working, right? Let's assume we start with observe, right? When we observe, what we do is we immerse ourselves into the real world. We learn from our users and we validate ideas we might have together with them. Then we reflect as a team. We get together, we synthesize what we've learned, we articulate a point of view, and we come up with a plan. right? And to reflect means processing what we've learned. We build understanding of a situation. We make sense of what we've observed or made. And this is really important because it raises everyone's collective understanding. So now next we make, right? When we make, design thinkers, we say, we get our hands dirty, right? We think with our hands, we explore ideas. And it's not necessarily literally our hands, and we work with clay or with paper or whatever, but maybe with digital tools. But the point is the same, right? We want to give concrete form to the abstract ideas we have built before, and we want to turn them into reality. Yeah, that can be a paper prototype, that can be a set of post-its on a wall, that can be a click dummy, that can be a web application prototype, which we did. And after we created that, we made it, right? We explore again, right? Because we got to find out, we got to reflect, what have we learned from making it, what did work, what was more complicated, how did we make it, what do we think about it now, and next we can take it to the user again, right? We observe, we let them interact with the prototype we built, we get their feedback, we see, we let them tell us, were we on the right track? Did we misunderstand their needs and pain points? Should we pivot? Should we do something else? How can we fine tune? And we keep reflecting again, right? And we go through that loop as often as is required for us to be able to say, okay, now we have a good enough solution, a good enough prototype version, if you will, to bring it out to the market, right? To let it free, right? And to let people interact with it, work with it, get value from it, and give us feedback, which we can use during the next iteration. So that was the loop. Pretty straightforward if you think about it. It's a reflection of saying our world is not linear, it's iterative, right? And therefore we have the loop. So now I gotta take a step back, right? Because sometimes people are asking me, okay, well, what is enterprise design thinking by IBM versus design thinking, and why the heck did you have to come up with something else when design thinking is out there in the wild since decades? Well, the main thing, the main reason why enterprise design thinking by IBM came to life is that we realized that that the design thinking practices that were used by small design agencies and smaller companies before were not good enough to scale for what we needed. Think about my project team, for example. It involves people from 5 different companies on 3 different continents, right? So you need a little bit more coordination and direction than what you would need if we would all like camp here in one room, like as a typical team that gets fed by 2 boxes of pizza. So we need to take the approach, but we need to scale it globally. Yeah, we need a way to get aligned, to stay aligned, and to stay in touch with the real world needs of our users. And that's what the 3 management practices we call the keys are about. So the keys put the IBM in IBM's enterprise design thinking. And let's have a look at them one by one, starting with hills and then playbacks and then sponsor users. So our first key are hills. Hills are statements of intent written as meaningful user outcomes. Hills provide alignment while giving teams the creative space they need to come to breakthrough ideas without the need of detailed requirements. And let's look at it at the right-hand side here. Okay, first of all, a sales leader, that is the who of the hill, the user or persona we want to create a delightful outcome for. Then can assemble an agile response team from across IBM in 24 hours. By the way, this one is real, right? So that's the what of the hill. That's what our user will be able to do when we finish the work on the hill. Okay, and finally, without management involvement, that's the wow of the hill, the part that describes how what we're doing is so exciting to our users that they go, wow, that is what I always wanted. How can I get this, right? What do I need to do? Yeah. So these are the 3 molecules of a hill. whom are we doing it for? What they will get when we finish this? And wow, why is that so exciting for them that they will go wow and they will be totally blown away by our product or solution? So this without management involvement will not sound like a big wow to you, right? But if you know a big corporation and know the processes, then this one was a wow that very well worked for the sales leaders. That's another important learning. When you're riding hills is not as easy, but when you're riding hills, you got to make sure the hill is not right for you, but for your user, right? So we are not our users. We got to make sure that the hills we're defining are suitable for the people we're serving. Yeah. And how do you know that? Well, I mean, you cannot know that without knowing your user well enough, knowing their needs, their pain points, their requirements, their demands, having walked a while in their shoes, having observed them in real life, will certainly help you to inform your thinking and to teach you and to give you a good sense for, is this a valuable hill for them or not? If you're not sure, play it back to them, right? They will tell you if you hit the nail on the head or rather not. The second key is playbacks. So playbacks are story-driven meetings where we as a team meet in a safe space, well, usually electronically in our case, because the team is from around the globe. If hills help us to get alignment, right? Oh, one thing I didn't mention, let me just go back to this really quickly. So one thing I forgot to say is like hills, actually the term is coming, and maybe that helps you remember the term hills. It's actually coming from a military context where I, as the chief in command, am telling my troops, you know what, guys? See that mountain over there, this hill, right? Our flag is going to be up there within 24 hours. I'm not telling you how to do it, right? You can use the cavalry, you can go by foot, you can you can use whatever means, but you have to conquer that hill within 24 hours, right? So this is the hill describes the intent and it gives people a way, a room of freedom and flexibility to decide themselves, being the experts, how that hill should be achieved and conquered. Okay, now back to playbacks, right? I mentioned that the hills give us alignment, right? So we write down the hills to be aligned, right? Playbacks help us to stay aligned. If you think of a big project, right? It's of typical nature that not everybody can be in the loop every time and be in close touch with what the dispersed team is creating. So playbacks is the venue, is the format where we all come together. Yeah. If you are a project stakeholder, right? So you have the say, you gave the team the mission, you have the business responsibility, then you can see if your team is still on track or if they're drifting off course. Yeah. If you're a team member, you can get the stakeholder feedback and get direction and maybe a suggestion to pivot based on what you are experiencing. The main interesting or important part is playbacks is not like it's not a PowerPoint battle, right? PowerPoint karaoke whatsoever. Playbacks are about showing the experience we have created for our users, right? It's always about the user experience. So we show what our user will experience based on what we had just delivered in the last sprint, if you're using an agile approach. Yeah. They're also a safe and inclusive approach. So everyone can understand the work and voice their feedback. It doesn't matter if you are the intern or the junior developer or the senior vice president, right? Actually, we had this once. We had we had one of those playbacks where one of our top-ranked executives was starting to question the team and push back and say, well, I mean, I don't believe what you do here. I'm not sure this is providing value. And the junior user researcher turned around and said, well, you know what? I can share the evidence. We did user research. We spoke to 25 people, right? And all of them had the same single pain point. And this is how we are addressing those pain points, right? So coming moving from a hierarchical the biggest paid, the best paid person in the room has the say and the final decision, to an approach where it's all about the user, right? If we serve the user well, and if we know that we do that, then this is the winning approach. And that was the end of the story back then. Yeah. So everyone, same footing, breaking down hierarchies and silos, but looking at what we are creating and building for the user. That's what playbacks are about. We kept talking about users, and maybe it's a big company thing, like an IBM thing, or maybe other big companies. What we found is that a lot of people believe they have like very profound user insights, maybe without having spent the time and doing a lot of research with people. So to overcome that barrier, what we were doing is we were introducing the concept of sponsor users. So sponsor users are real world users that regularly work with a product or a solution or in a space where we are building a solution for. We bring them together, we incorporate them into our teams, they become part of our team, and that allows them to contribute their domain expertise. Yeah, so the person we are interviewing is the actual user, not somebody who has heard of somebody who might become a user at some point. Yeah. And this is something that's extremely powerful because it helps us to do a reality check. It takes bias out, right? It's like you can stop fighting with your other team members, right? If you spoke to a significant enough number of users and they told you this is the way how we need it, because I mean, I can tell you with eminence, I know how I'm dealing with bank accounts or with investments or with whatever your domain is, with air cargo vessels, yeah, and I'm the domain expert, and you're building a solution for me, and it better do this because otherwise it won't be useful for you. End of story, right? So no need to discuss, and no need to have heated discussions within the team. So that was a quick run through flyover enterprise design thinking by IBM. I want to I have a couple of thoughts I want to share before we come to the end, and mostly it's because there are so many misconceptions about design thinking. What I'm hearing often is the following: design thinking are workshops. It's like workshops. That's how we do design thinking, and it's not quite, right? Or it's sticky notes, right? Write stuff on sticky notes, put it on the wall. That's what design thinking is all about, right? And it's actually not, right? What design thinking is, it's inherently deeply grounded, human-centered, right? It's collaborative because you cannot build a solution without ideating, reflecting, researching together with your friends. And it's active and iterative. So I'm just realizing I can't see you, but I want to ask a question. So think about an example, like learning how to ride a bike. That's a major milestone in a kid's life. And here is a book, and you have to unmute yourself. But who of you has read this book or gave it to their children when they wanted to learn how to ride a bike? Any of you? Well, maybe you don't have children. Maybe you don't have children yet. Yeah, maybe I should ask about your sister and nephews or whatever. But I can cut this short because I think I know the answer. None of you asked, right? Because I have invented the book, the title, the author. It's completely fake, right? So there is no book that teaches you how to ride a bike, yeah, because that does not make any sense. None of us would consider learning to ride a bike by reading a book about it. And design thinking is a bit like riding a bike, yeah. To learn it and to get really good at it, there is only one way. You have to practice, 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 right? And but practicing design thinking alone is possible, right? It's just like half the fun, right? So think about it when you have your next brainstorming ideation. Do it with a group of people, and keep the people in mind whom you're doing this for, and then you can work on those design thinking muscles. Okay, one last thing. I think it's like 2 or 3 last things, but this one last thing is such a good last thing. So there is a free download. I don't have it here right now, but when we started doing workshops, we created this Enterprise Design Thinking Field Guide. It's a little booklet, like about this size, and it has all the activities, or a lot of the activities you would typically do during a design thinking workshop with the team. And the reason why we created this booklet is like, if you are bringing people together for a workshop, and we do this like a mixture between, if you're practicing design thinking, some of it will be workshopping, some of it will be daily work. But in a workshop, you don't want people to basically check their emails all the time, check their messages, like check the stock prices, whatever. Yeah, you want them to be focused on in the room with everybody else. And therefore we created this little book, and you can download a PDF of it. You can print it, put it on a table, and then you don't need any electronics while doing design thinking. The second thing, and I mentioned this before, is you have free access to the entire Enterprise Design Thinking platform, right? So it has digital courses. So the ones you see the badges here for can be done by anybody. To become a coach or a leader, you would need to you would need somebody from IBM to help you with. But for all the basic batches, you can create. Well, you're not creating them. You can do the online learning, and you can then acquire those batches. You can put them on your LinkedIn profile, and you can share them on your favorite social media platform. And if people click on it, they will be brought to the not to IBM, but to the site who is offering those badges, and people can learn what your accomplishments are. So it's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to show your eminence. The other thing on the platform, I mentioned this early on, is like there is a well, first of all, there is a deep documentation about the entire enterprise design thinking framework. So all the things I was taking you through in a whirlwind tour right now, you can read there. You can look at them. You can read the next level of information about the hills and the playbacks and then diverse empowered teams and so on. Yeah, and the toolkit with the activities is really like. So it's described in here in the field guide, but if maybe you want to lead those with a group of people, then you find a quick description of the activities that's similar to what's in the field guide, but you also can download presentation decks you can use to facilitate those, and that include examples that show you how those artifacts would typically evolve and so on. Yeah, and so I mean, use it. It's for free, and in my mind, it's providing really great differentiation in the marketplace. If somebody has gone through those, has learned those, then you're not just talking about design thinking. You can show that you have experience. And while the practitioner and the team essentials are mostly like self-study, the co-creator ideally works best if you team up with a few folks. And do it together in a small team. Yeah, but to go to the site, you can figure it out yourself. It's really easy in my mind. And the only thing you will have to create is an IBM ID. So that means it's a one-step registration process with your favorite email ID, and then you're ready to go. If you found this presentation useful, I just wanted to make you aware of that. I'm offering this presentation as part of IBM Skills Build. And if you look up Skills Build on Wikipedia, you find the text here. So it's an online educational website, an initiative we established in 2005, and it offers free digital training, yeah, for many topics in the field of IT. And if you okay, so just realizing that something has been, I can't read it really well anymore, but it's skillsbuild.org. You can also see it when you Google it. So there you can find like many other classes like this one, which might be interesting for you and support you in your learning journey. All right, I think that's all I had. Thank you so much. Thank you for paying attention, for joining us, and I think we have a few minutes time for Q&A. So thank you very much for being here.
Gerhard, that is wonderful.
I'm sorry, Sherry, I didn't mean to cut you off. While we give some more time to folks to ask questions, I had a question for Gerhard, if I may start.
Absolutely.
You just touched that, but I was wondering if you can explain a little bit more. So there are 3 levels, right, of design thinking. If we go on the IBM learning platform. And I was wondering, because we have a very diverse audience, so we have invited students, faculty, and staff, and each one of us may represent a bigger unit, a big department, or be part of a small center, as Sherry and I represent today. Or maybe we have students who have work in groups for, and maybe they're part of clubs. So I believe that design thinking can be applied to all these different situations. But if you had to give a quick recommendation on the 3 levels, so what type of situation requires like a more advanced knowledge, and what other situation is totally fine with just having a practitioner understand or basic understanding?
So from my perspective, with design thinking, like with starting to ride a bike, is you got to start, right? So if you're on to win the Tour de France, then you may need a little bit more time in practice. But even if you just like put your learning wheels off, right, you can still use it and accomplish it to make it to bring it to life for you. I had people come here, like my designers in the studio. They packed like a few packs of Post-its and Sharpies, like very junior people, right? Saying, you know what, I'm meeting with my sister and with a few relatives, and we are planning their wedding, right? And we want to do an ideation. So I just looked it up in the field guide. So I know how to do it, and I know how to run it, and I take just the supplies, and then we'll try it out, right? And if everybody is, so this doesn't require a facilitator or coach in this case, right? So people are just like trying it out together. It puts them on equal footing, because like one of the magic pieces of these devices, and it's blurry, but it's okay, is that if you write a Post-it and you put it on the wall, you cannot see anymore. They're not signed. They don't have a name on it. It doesn't say it's from Gerhard, the expert design thinker, right? It's just a Post-it, right? And so this is part of the beauty of design thinking, that it puts everybody on equal footing, and it gives ideas a chance, even in hierarchical situations, by people who usually may not have a say in something. Yeah, one example is I was doing account planning. So this is I was working with the account team of the who was serving the German railways system, and they were doing design thinking, and I was their coach, but I was facilitating the activities, but I was at a little bit of a distance, and they worked, and at the end of the workshop, the sponsor who has asked for that workshop came to me and said, you know what, did you realize this one idea which we used to build our entire story on? Do you know who put this on? I said, no, actually, I didn't pay attention, right? I mean, I was facilitating you guys, I was facilitating another group. He said, but I did. It was the intern, right? And the intern, like not blinded by everything else, like a very junior person, right? Together with general managers and VPs and SMEs, right? I mean, nobody would even have listened to him if he would have raised the hand in a meeting. But being able to put an idea down, and a great idea, right? One that was not clouded by like by prior experience. This idea developed its own dynamic, and it totally changed the conversation. So this is part of the design thinking magic, and this can happen if you are very experienced or not very experienced. Just like play with it, yeah. So for why I'm recommending for people to build their muscle and to grow and to become a practitioner and eventually a code creator is you just learn more and you understand better how you can help other people to produce better results, right? So if you have internalized things like going through the loop, or a very important thing like it's really required to understand your users, and how can you get that user understanding? How can you listen with empathy and these sort of things, right? That's kind of like part of the design thinking toolbox, and it's something where if you acquire more of these skills and more experience and more practice, you will be more effective by helping other people to accomplish better outcomes. So that was a very long-winded answer, I realize, and I hope I got your question right. Otherwise, just like let me know and I take another shot at it.
No, it was perfect. I think it really helps. It's you brought a very interesting example with you know, how to use design thinking in our private lives to avoid major conflicts in the family, which is something we have to all keep in mind. For it's better than, you know, avoiding a conflict in the family is better than avoiding a conflict in at work. So.
My previous general manager, Phil Gilbert, you may have read about him. He retired from IBM like 2 years ago, but he used to say, you can use design thinking for everything, like from designing the spaceships to doing marriage counseling, right? Designing spaceship might be a stretch because like it's, I mean, the one situation where I would not recommend design thinking is if there are no humans involved, right? The superpower of design thinking is it helps you understand the people you're serving and solving their problems, right? If it's a purely technical situation, but often you get a technical or business problem, and when you drill in deeper, then you find out, oh, okay, yeah. So it's actually not so much about getting the technology right, but understanding who would benefit from that technology and what are their expectations, what are their needs, what are their pain points. So you can see I'm a big fan of this. Yeah, it helps us a lot to make sure we are coming to solutions better, that faster, that serve really the people and address their needs.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
okay.
We could not have planned this any better, Gerhard, that you followed our Adobe presenter, because Eric was talking about showcasing and building stories and the power of why. Mm-hmm. And I think that this design thinking, the IBM's Enterprise Design Thinking, flows right into that, and Simon Sinek's why. Mm-hmm. And how that relates to entrepreneurship, because if we start looking for entrepreneurial minds in our company, whether they be coming in at the ground floor at our customer service or the new CEO for our company, if we start training everyone in that manner, then it's just going to increase our bottom line. It's going to increase our productivity, and hopefully our human-centered principles.
Very true.
Thank you, Gerhard. Thank you so much. And
thank you. Thanks for having me.
We so are thrilled you were here. And I'll be talking to you because I want to look at that coaching. Okay. One day. But up next is Lincoln with Microsoft, and we have about 6 minutes for everybody to take a short break, not staring at a screen for just a moment maybe, and we'll see you guys back here at 1 o'clock. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.